Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Alicia Benson. I'm the CEO of Greater Spokane Incorporated, and I am grateful to have the opportunity to be here with you this afternoon for our Community Connections webinar with Central Valley School District. We at Greater Spokane Incorporated, we are so thrilled and happy to support our schools because we know that education grows economies. We know that our schools are at the heart of our healthy community, and that education is one of the most important assets that we have to help our economy recover. It also allows us to attract businesses to our community, create new jobs, and ensure that we have a strong workforce to fill those jobs. I'm excited today to hear about all of the incredible work going on at Central Valley School District this year, and also to learn about what's on the horizon. I look forward to learning more about the levies and the levy impacts to the district. As we have discussion today on these different topics, please make sure that you engage with us. At the bottom of your Zoom screen is the Q&A function, where you're able to submit your questions, and the team of folks with Central Valley School District will be helping to manage those questions and get answers for you. With that, I would like to welcome in and introduce Central Valley School District Superintendent Ben Small. Welcome, Ben.
Thank you very much, Alicia. And thank you to all of our community members who have joined us today. We typically meet in person for our Community Connections series of events. We meet for breakfast and sometimes for a lunch engagement as well. We found how to do these events virtually so that you can hear the information and the stories of the Central Valley School District. We have yet to figure out how to virtually get you a breakfast or a lunch. And so we appreciate you joining us even without that hot breakfast or that tremendous lunch that oftentimes is provided for by our students at our high schools and our nutrition services staff. So again, thank you. Today I will be sharing a bit about the state of the Central Valley School District, who we are and who we serve, how we've navigated the pandemic and school reopening this year, and finally, what the levy means for our district. You know, I know there are many strong feelings regarding our school reopening plan from our parents and community members. And we know that this year has certainly been absolutely challenging for our students and our families, our parents, and our staff. It's important to know that we're doing all we can to get our students back into school buildings as safely as possible, while following the guidelines from our local health department and also our state Department of Health. We're looking forward to welcoming our 7th through 12 students back into school in person beginning on February 1st. And while at the same time, we understand we may have not communicated why our 7 through 12 students are returning on a more phased-in approach. And I just want to talk a little bit about that before we get into the rest of our webinar. First of all, we know a couple of things. We know that our 7 through 12 students act differently and carry the virus differently. We also know that at our schools, especially our high schools, we have large amounts of students that we need to manage. We also know that what's different between our elementary and our high school students is that our elementary students are cohorted into classrooms. And those cohorts into classrooms allow us to really do an effective job of identifying students who may have been identified as positive cases and isolate students who may be close contacts. As we move into our secondary levels, in order to meet the needs of our students, there's no way that we can totally cohort our 7 through 12 students because they all have different scheduling needs, and to put them all in cohorts is just not possible. This means that our 7 through 12 students make contact tracing much more difficult. We know that our 3-period day helps in that, but at the same time, we know that we're triple the amount of contact tracing that we have to do. One of the things that we believe, and our Department of Health, our regional Department of Health, has worked very closely with us over the last 2 to 3 months in looking at bringing our 7 through 12 students back. We know that they have set a standard for us that we have to meet as a school district. They have set out performance criteria, and that standard of care is something that we in the Central Valley School District know that we must live up to. And by phasing our students in, starting February 1st, 1 day a week in cohorts of A, B, C, D, it allows us to meet that standard. It allows us to absolutely do this in a way that we feel we can meet the safety standards that have been set for us. At the same time as we've looked at this, our regional health district has put a roadmap out for us. So starting February 1st with 1 day a week, and then going to March 1st with a hybrid A, B, and 2 days a week as well. And so we're grateful for our regional health district and working with us to bring our secondary students back. You know, we're so grateful for to our community for your support and flexibility at this time. In particular, we appreciate all the great partnerships with our local organizations and churches in our community. You have helped us, helped our district and our kids in so many important ways that it just seems like a thank you, just spoken thank you is not enough. But please know we are forever grateful to you. I would like to recognize our school board members for your great leadership and guidance and thinking truly of our Central Valley School District community. On our call today is Cindy McMullen. I want to thank you for joining us, Cindy. Also on our call today is representatives from our cities, and in particular, I'd like to welcome Katie Allen to this webinar, great representative of the city of Liberty Lake and a great partner for us as Central Valley School District. Phil Champlin, who has stepped up and helped meet the needs of our students, our children in our community, as a representative and the direct CEO of the hub. Thank you very much for your partnership with us. You know, our churches served as learning centers and provided opportunities to support our learners in the online environment, and our churches across our community should be commended for their work. So thank you again for being here. I would like to start with just a brief overview of who we are as the Central Valley School District. I have a saying that we are here for education for a better community, and a community is known by the schools it keeps. And this is not a saying that I have originated, but it is one that resounds with me, that the way that our communities educate our children for their future and not ours is, I think, critical. We cover 80 square miles. We cover the jurisdictions of the city of Liberty Lake, the city of Spokane Valley, and the city of, or an unincorporated Spokane County. And it is right now that I would like to recognize Mary Cuney, who is one of our county commissioners. Mary, thank you for your partnership and work with us through CARES dollars. By providing CARES dollars, we have been able to lessen the cost of personal protective equipment and also provide many of those childcare opportunities for our students. So thank you, Mary, very much. We serve 14,875 students in the Central Valley School District, and we do that through 28 schools and learning centers, soon to be 29 schools as we open Ridgeline High School in the fall of 2021. We have 2,100 employees. We serve about 37.6% of our students are eligible for free and reduced lunch. And we serve about 16% of our population in special education. We are very proud of our 90% graduation rate, but we certainly are not satisfied with that number. And we continue to work to improve those metrics that we know are absolutely important to our community.
Thanks, Superintendent Small, for that really both excellent overview of the school districts, the students that you serve, and my added both welcome and thank you to our community and business and elected leaders that are joining us for this important conversation and discussion and your support of our schools. So I want to, you touched a little bit on this, talking about the return of your 7th to 12th graders, but talk to us a little bit more, Superintendent Small, about the impacts of COVID-19, how the school district, the kind of challenges, how you've navigated that. Talk a little bit more about that.
So one of the things that in March of last year, when it became obvious that this pandemic was going to impact our schools, our communities, our businesses to the extent, and I don't know that we fully understood the extent in March, but we set out about fulfilling our mission in the Central Valley School District in 3 prongs. First was to make sure we were doing our part to contain the virus and not act in a way that would spread the virus in our schools and our school district. That was an important part of our strategy. Secondly, we wanted to maintain connection with our students and provide a learning environment the best that we could. And that March, April, May, June timeframe was bumpy, very bumpy for our staff, very bumpy for our families as well. And then thirdly, we wanted to provide and be an asset to our community. And when I say an asset to our community, I mean, how is it that we step in to fill the void? One of those areas that we did that in is we provided last resort childcare for families that were working in healthcare, pharmacy, that were working in our grocery stores, our first responders, our fire, our police, and we provided that last resort childcare free of charge. Another thing that we did is we knew that when our schools are not in session, many of our families would not have access to affordable meals. And so one day after our schools were closed, the Central Valley School District began serving meals to all students, 0 to 18, in our area. And we've served over 975,000 meals since March. These meals are free of charge. And as this pandemic has gone on, we know that food insecurity has been more prevalent in our communities. And so we wanted to make sure that we were part of a solution to keep our communities vibrant and safe and whole. We also know that on the weekend, many of our families were provided for food through a program called Food for Thought. And we brainstormed and partnered with Spokane Valley Partners in a way to continue to deliver those weekend meals to our students in need. And we served over 7,000 meals to the doorsteps of our students who had food insecurity. And it's important to know how this was done. Every Friday, our buses would pull into Broadway Elementary School, which is right next to Spokane Valley Partners. We would have volunteer staff from the Central Valley School District, teachers, classified staff, counselors, teacher librarians would board buses, masked up, gloved up, would deliver these meal packs on a voluntary basis to the homes of our students. So as you look at those 3 areas, there's been times when we've done very, very well in meeting all 3 of those. And then there's been times when we've stumbled. But one of the things that we knew was very important is that our children were connected to our schools. And that means that each child had a Chromebook if they needed it. And so we distributed Chromebooks to every student who desired one in the Central Valley School District. We adopted a digital backbone of curriculum for students so that we had more interactive and engaged curriculum, more curriculum that our students could easily more engage with online. We provided web cameras for every teacher, and we sent supply kits home to students so that they could continue that learning. We provided essential support to students. And again, the outreach team that our school district put into place, I think was vitally important to reconnect and connect to students that would have been disconnected from our school district. We set up learning support centers at our churches, support for our child care facilities so that our child care facilities would have enhanced internet connection. And we also provided meals to our students in those child care facilities. As we brought students and planned to bring students back into in-person learning, we gathered a large group of people to begin talking about how we would bring students in person beginning in the fall of 2020. There was lots of collaboration. Elected officials, parents, school district officials got together and began planning for a safe return in 2020. We planned for ventilation upgrades. We planned for protocols and check-in for students. How do we attest that students are healthy? We created protocols in order to best serve our students' needs. And unfortunately, as we began through this summer and into August, we realized that our health district recommended that we not return to school in person at that time. However, that planning has been so vitally important for us as we now have moved back into in-person learning. And today, because of that planning, in the Central Valley School District, our K-6 students will be able to attend school every day, all day. They will not have to be in a hybrid model. And that model then creates the greatest stability for our students K-6. Levy dollars were critical to enable us with flexibility to pivot during this pandemic. And one of the areas that they were absolutely critical in is lower class sizes in our K-3 school environment. It is because of those levy dollars that we're able to offer our students in our K-6 grades an education every day, all day. You know, I'm proud of our staff, our parents' ability to face challenges together in unprecedented circumstances. And we know that not everything has been perfect. But I would like to introduce one of our outstanding teachers as Sarah talks about her experience this year, pivoting from in-person teaching to virtual teaching, and now back to in-person. Sarah.
Hello, and thank you for having me, and thanks, Ben. I am here to just talk briefly about my experience teaching virtually in the fall, and then now back to in-person. So I am a full-time health and fitness teacher, K through 12 certified, and this is my 9th year teaching health and fitness. And this fall, I was asked to teach not only 2 health and fitness classes, but also an art class. Our art teacher had transferred schools within our district, and due to the circumstances, we did not hire a new art teacher. And so I call it my side hustle, but I make and sell pottery just on my own time. And my principal knew that, and he approached me and said, "What do you think about virtual pottery?" And my wheels had already been turning about teaching virtual health and fitness. So I said, let me think about it. But after thinking about it and understanding, the additional work it may cause, I agreed to do it. I felt like the students really needed a unique class, a hands-on class that they can do at home. And I felt like I was the person to do it. I like a good challenge. I have a creative mind a little bit. And so I decided I was going to make kits at school, and then they would come and pick up their own individual kit and take it home. And what I did was create, YouTube videos. And I think I got a little credit from the kids too by having my own YouTube channel. I think that's a big deal. And so I made the YouTube videos. The students that were option 1 would join my Zoom class. They would watch the videos, and then I would be able to assist them with questions and anything that they needed while we were in class. But the option 4 students, which go at their own pace, they simply watch the videos. They would email with questions here and there, but all in all, it was incredible to see the students successfully produce pottery in their homes by themselves, with me really helping them very little. They watched the videos and they were successful. So they had to bring their projects back to get them fired, which they did. And then they glazed them and then brought them back one last time. And you can see a few examples of the students' projects. They were amazing. I was totally impressed. I think it turned out better than I could have expected. And there were no explosions in the kiln, which if you've done pottery, that is somewhat of a common occurrence. And so they really impressed me. I think the students had a unique experience, and it made me grow and be a better teacher as well. And now we're back to in-person. This is, day 5, I think. And so I'm still learning, still adjusting. It's a reality check coming right back, but it's really cool to see the students. We realize we're all real people, and sometimes we just sit and stare at each other and go, that's what you look like in real life. So yeah, it's been a journey, but it is cool to see the kids and see that they're doing well, even through these, last several months. So that's all I have.
Oh, no, go ahead. No, go right ahead.
Oh, no, I was saying that was it, unless you have any other questions.
Well, I just want to say on behalf of everybody joining us today, and thank you for sharing your story, and you exemplify what teachers across the Central Valley School District and across our community have been doing to inspire and innovate and bring passion to this experience that we found ourselves in, and still deliver that support to your students. It's just incredible. So a huge thank you on behalf of all of us for that, and for being here today to share that experience and story with all of us. So thank you again.
Well, thank you very much, and I appreciate that. And I am a representative for the many teachers out there working extremely hard and trying things totally out of their comfort zone. So thank you very much, and thanks for having me. It's an honor.
You're very welcome. Thanks again for being here. I want to go ahead and transition the conversation to talk more about the upcoming levy for the school district. And so I'm going to hand it back over to Superintendent Small. And Superintendent Small, can you tell us a little bit more about the levy, what the funding supports, what the ballot measure looks like for voters in Central Valley?
Absolutely. In front of our voters on February 9th of 2021 is a 3-year replacement levy that replaces a retiring 3-year levy that expires at the end of 2021. Our levy funds areas such as staffing that is above and beyond what our state pays for. For example, our levy funds roughly 30 teaching positions in the Central Valley School District, funds another 30 custodial positions in the Central Valley School District. It is absolutely critical for us to maintain and sustain our programs that we currently offer for our students. Special education. Our special education programs are mandated by our federal and state government, and we have made a commitment to offer high quality special education programs in the Central Valley School District. Every year, about $5 million is devoted out of our local levy to fund those special education programs. It funds student intervention and support services. We fund social workers out of our local levy. We fund counselors above and beyond the state funded number of counselors in our district, right at about 7.5 more counselors than our state supports. It funds our curriculum and instructional materials. We renew our curricular material sets at a much quicker pace than the state funds, and all of that money comes from our local levy. It funds all of our technology. So all of those Chromebooks that I talked about earlier, all of those hotspots that were used in order to increase the amount of internet available to our students is paid for out of our local levy. Safety and security, our new director of school safety and security, Brian Asmus, is paid for out of our levy. Our co-curricular and extracurricular activities are all paid for out of our levy. And of course, as we've returned to in-person learning, the staff that supports our ability to meet that standard of care is funded out of our local levy. It's important to note that this is a replacement levy. It is for 3 years. It would be collected in the year 2022, 2023, and 2024. Our levy rate over those 3 years would remain would be steady at $2.40 per thousand. Our current levy rate is $2.48 per thousand. This levy is vitally important for us to sustain the programs that we currently offer to our students in the Central Valley School District. It funds at about 200 positions in the Central Valley School District and over 600 stipend positions. These are positions such as Math is Cool coaches, our cross-country coaches for the Active for Youth program at our elementary schools, our positions as coaches, athletic coaches in our high schools, club coaches, Green Club, all of those clubs that have advisors that are paid a stipend. There are over 600 of those stipends across the Central Valley School District that are supported out of this levy. I think one of the things that's really important is to remember is that we're in a people business, and it takes people to interface with our students in order to deliver the services that are important for our students on a daily basis. We are proud of our results. I talked about our 90% graduation rate, over 90% graduation. We're proud of that, not satisfied with it. And our levy supports those programs that helps a student who may be struggling, and it also helps a student who may be in AP courses so that we can offer those courses moving forward. I give an example of foreign languages. We have a strong history of foreign language in our high schools. And whether it's a German class with 13 students or it's a French class with 13 students, our local levy supports those opportunities for our students to become well-versed in those world languages. It supports programs such as our advanced manufacturing courses, our STEM initiatives and STEM camps, STEM being science, technology, engineering, and math. So things like Project Lead the Way are supported out of our local levy. I'd like to play a quick video to give the staff perspective on what our levy funds mean for their programs in the district.
My role in the students' experience is to come alongside them and support them in their academics, their behavior, socially and emotionally too, so that they're successful in all avenues and all aspects of their life. I couldn't do my job without the support of the community. I think it takes a village, and they are amazing.
Professionalism is a work ethic and an attitude. It is not a paycheck. Kids that are involved in the arts, their brains fire differently. It encourages them to come up with multiple solutions to one problem, and they do better academically across the board. The voters provided us with this facility, and I will forever be grateful for the voters of the city of Spokane Valley.
The biomedical courses do use a lot of equipment. Without that community support, there'd be no way that we'd have the ability to have that technology or even the support to run that kind of program.
Our nursing team is phenomenal. They have 12 certificated school nurses that are covering 28 buildings in our district. It's nice to be part of something that you know is benefiting the community. I get to be part of that and hopefully be that one person that could make a big difference for somebody.
We're very grateful for the community support, allowing us to continue this great work that we're doing as a security team. not only to provide a safe environment for our students and our families, but also with this pandemic that we're all facing, is to be able to do the work necessary, again, to make sure everybody is staying safe when we get back to in-person learning.
You see a lot of character in a student when they are put into a competitive situation. Team bonding allows the kids to be a part of something bigger than themselves. The athletic programs at Central Valley are essential to our school and our community because it provides an opportunity for kids no matter their background.
What a wonderful video that captures how important the levy dollars are to our schools and to our communities, and really demonstrates how they're at work. What we want to do now is open up the conversation for questions. I want to remind everybody that's joined us this afternoon that you can submit your questions through the Q&A function at the bottom of your Zoom screen, and the team at Central Valley will help us make sure we get those questions answered for you. So I am going to start off with the first question to Superintendent Small. Really coming off that video, talk to us, Superintendent Small, about what happens if we were not to pass our school levy.
As I was, thank you very much for that question. This levy, again, accounts for 2022, 2023, and 2024. I think one of the things that our families, our staff, and our community craves is a return to something close to normal. And if our levy were not to pass, our students, and what you saw on the screen today, whether it's somebody who plays football at Central Valley High School or wrestles at University High School, would not return to those programs because we would not be able to support those programs in the 21-22 school year. We would have to be looking at reducing our teaching staff, our nursing corps. We would have to look at reducing our custodial staff going forward. So this is about the people in our school district who absolutely are important to deliver that quality education to our students. So when 85% of what we do in the Central Valley School District is tied to our personnel and those positions that it supports, there would be a severe impact to the Central Valley School District budget and severe cuts.
Thank you for that. I realize that for some, we may not spend as much time in the Zoom world as others. And so just want to make sure I point out that if you kind of scroll towards the bottom of your screen, that's where the bar will pop up so that you're able to submit your questions through the Q&A function that's available in our webinar today. And so with that, let's move on to the next question. The next question is, will Central Valley virtual learning continue to be a full-time option for students who discover that they thrive in this learning environment?
I think that I'm going to ask Tim Newtonboom to help me with this question as we go forward. The one thing that I would say is we're actively looking at what kind of options our parents and our students will have going forward. And frankly, we believe that there have been some big advances in this area in the Central Valley School District during this pandemic. But I'm going to turn it to Tim Newtonboom, as Associate Superintendent of Learning and Teaching in the Central Valley School District.
Good afternoon, everyone. You know, circumstance certainly brought us to a more robust offering, K-8, for a full-time virtual option. And while full-time virtual may not be the best option for some families, we have found that there is staff and families that this is really a great and innovative option. It's been a work in progress. We developed it this summer to get it launched. We serve over 1,400 students currently, K-8, in our full-time virtual environment. We will be working closely with that parent community to start talking about a vision for the future. As we've learned some things, as we look to possibly adapt some things, we plan to survey that parent community, engage them into some webinars such as this, and really talk about their interest in moving forward. And if we have that interest and desire as a pathway for students, we think this is a great opportunity moving forward. So we're undergoing that effort right now, and more information to come.
Thanks for that, Tim. kind of adding on to the question about virtual learning, we have a question here that if a family decided to keep their child learning virtually for the rest of the year, will their children be able to continue to participate in band and athletics?
Absolutely. We have a desire to make sure that we are making available as many of those options that look and feel as normal for our students as possible. And we know that those activities that our students have available to them would be available to a family who has chosen to stay virtual as well.
Great. And then on that, if we are wanting to engage in band or athletics or some of the other great extracurricular activities, when do you expect that to start within the school district?
Our school board voted on January 11th to allow our students to compete in the GSL as the GSL has lined out their schedule, and that GSL schedule would start February 8th. And that is depending on what phase that we're in, but I know that cross country will probably be one of the first sports to return. And cross country is allowed during phase 1 of the governor's reopening plan. And so cross country will be starting, I believe, here pretty quickly.
Great, thank you. So we have a couple of questions here. I'm going to kind of combine them, but we understand that, understanding the levy can be complicated, the timing of it, how it works, what the rate is. So can you just, I know we've touched on it a bit, but spend just a couple more minutes sharing for people what the current rate of the levy is, what it would be when it passes, what the timing of those things in regards to this levy that's on the ballot.
Absolutely. So our current levy in the Central Valley School District is for $2.48 per thousand. And our levy that we're asking our voters to approve is actually for a 3-year levy, and it's $2.40 per thousand over the 3 years of that levy. We would begin collecting that in 2022, then 2023 and 2024. We're on a 3-year levy cycle, and we have to ask our voters to renew that levy every 3 years, or else it expires. As we look at timing of that, we plan our budgets, start planning our budgets really February, March. And so if we don't have an approved levy, then we have to make the coordinated cuts to the next school year. So for the 21-22 school year. That's why I say it's really important that we are able to return our students to a normal school experience as much as possible. And this levy allows us to do that going forward.
Great. So another question that's come in is maybe give folks a sense, this is one of the things that we hear, that without students in school full time right now, why would the district need the levy right now?
Well, I think right now, the levy, again, as I just talked about, the levy is paying for programs in the 21-22 school year and moving forward. Furthermore, one of the things that we would say that I call out attention to is that there are areas that we are saving money during this pandemic. When we haven't had students in our buildings, our energy costs certainly are lower. Those, however, have had to be shifted into other areas where our costs are higher. For example, in transportation, where we're at 50% capacity in our transportation department, we stand to be in a deficit of about $4 million. And so as we save money in one area, we have to make up for it in another area as we move forward. As we continue to grow in the Central Valley School District, we will need our levy to support those new students who come into our schools. That means we need more coaches for an Active for Youth program at the elementary school, or a Math is Cool coach, as we continue to grow and expand. So this levy this year will not have an impact on that is before the voters, will not have an impact on this year's budget. It impacts the next year's budget and our ability to continue and sustain the programs that we offer to our students into the future.
Thank you for expanding on that. Another question that came in here is, what type of mental health supports are available through the school for students?
Absolutely. I think that one of the things that that I would point out is our outreach team, which is made up of school counselors, our social workers, and our safety staff as we make home visits and interface with families. And I would like to turn it over to Dr. Terry Vanderwegen if she wants to explain some of the specific outreach programs that we have provided.
Hi, good afternoon. Many of the programs and processes that we have in place now are for that early identification of students that may be at risk. We have a couple different screeners that we've been using with our elementary, middle, and high school students. They're social emotional screeners to help us identify kids that may need some additional support. In addition to that, as Superintendent Small said, with our outreach team, we are providing additional services, mental health services. We make referrals, and those happen not only through our outreach team, but also our social workers. So we're making sure that we're wrapping the services around families in a timely manner so that they are able to remove whatever barriers that they have in place.
Thank you for that, Terry. So we've had a couple of questions, and I know you touched on this some at the in your opening remarks and thoughts around the return of 7th to 12th grade, but I know that that's an area that has folks just trying to understand it at a little deeper level. Can you just help people understand what will their day look like? What will that schedule involve? Things they should be thinking ahead of in regards to 7th or 12th returning?
Absolutely. I'll turn this over to Mr. Newtboom here in just a little bit. But one of the things that we know about returning our students to in-person learning is that there are layers of protocols that are put into place that keeps our students and our staff in as safe as environment as possible. And one of the things that we do in the Central Valley School District that may be different than other school districts have chosen to do is that we take every student's temperature every single day. We take every staff member's temperature every single day. And what we have found is that by doing that, we have minimized the number of students who are infectious in our schools. And we know that there are multiple symptoms in this notion of the coronavirus or COVID-19. And yet we see probably 4 or 5 students at our elementary schools every day who have elevated temperatures. And we're able to keep those students who may be infectious out of those classroom environments. And that is very, very helpful, and it's very worth it. I say that because as you look at our high schools, and when we get to an A-B schedule, we'll have almost 1,000 students on a daily basis checking into our schools. And to do that, and to do it well, we need to be able to manage that. And so as we take this approach of 1 day a week for the first month, certainly adjusting as we need to go. If we can move more quickly, and with advice of our health department, we will certainly look at changing schedules. But we want to make sure we're able to do everything that is possible to keep students who are infectious out of our schools, staff who are infectious staying home, and at the same time meeting everybody's needs as we move forward. And I would turn it over to Mr. Newtboom to talk just a little bit about the schedule.
Thank you, Mr. Small. One of the things that we kept, actually really came from the summer planning committee, was as we migrated back to an in-person schedule in a hybrid model, is really trying to keep some things parallel in it. So our current schedule right now has been built around 3 80-minute periods in our high school, 3 90-minute periods in our middle school. And really that's going to stay intact. Now, what we've done is we've compacted it, because now, keep in mind, if you selected the learning option 1 and 4, that was with the intent to return in person at which point that we can. So what will happen is that we will have that more compact in the first part of the day, so that we're able to provide our students lunches on the go. They'll get a whole week's worth of lunches and breakfast in the ABCD schedule. so that they're prepared for that. That helps with some of our transitions within the building, so we don't have to worry about the commons with 1,000 students potentially on campus. And I think we're able to provide that. While it might be more condensed, we're still offering that same equitable time that we currently offer with our periods. The other thing to keep in mind is that after school activities, we'll be able to, by doing that, we'll be able to start in February looking at some of our co and extracurricular activities at our high schools that will be able to support that as well. So this migration really does line up with our fully virtual option. When you're not virtual, or excuse me, when you're not in person on those days, you'll be able to plug in to your classroom virtually. So we'll have, you know, real-time teaching every day to keep that continuity of learning 5 days a week. Like Mr. Small said, you will start 1 day a week in person, ultimately migrating to 2 days a week in person, but you'll have that 5-day real-time teaching and stay connected with your teacher in your classroom.
Excellent. Thanks so much for that information. We're coming up here on our last couple, I think, questions we've received, and want to honor everybody's time. And so kind of building off of that, talking about what it's going to look like for our high schoolers and 7th through 12th graders, talk to us a little bit about how it's been going for your younger students who've been back in the classroom. How's that all working and how's it looking?
Well, I think from all reports, we've done 2 surveys of our parents of students who are in person. Our parents have said that they appreciate the attention to the protocols that we have in place. They are thrilled to have their students back into school all day, every day in our K-6 environment. I know that my 6th grader returned on the 15th and is now back with her entire class today for the first time. And we are grateful for the opportunity that she has to be in person. But I think one of the things that our community through those, I think we've conducted at least 180 phone surveys, phone interviews of parents who have had children that have returned. They really do appreciate the support that we have given for the protocols. They appreciate the safety and us looking at safety, while at the same time appreciating their child being in an in-person environment with their teacher. You know, there is apprehension, of course, as we move back to school in person in a global pandemic. And we want to make sure that we are always paying attention to our family's needs. And if a family needs to stay in that virtual environment, we want to accommodate them. We want them to be able to feel comfortable with where they're at. And if they want to stay virtual, we want to make sure that that is a possibility for them. I would turn it over to Eric Hoagland or Matt Lambert to talk about what's happening K-6 and how things are going in that realm.
Hello, thank you, everybody. My name is Eric Hogan. I'm the Executive Director for Elementary. And throughout the entire implementation of bringing our K-5 students back, we've seen nothing but positive smiles and great success. Today, we welcome back for the first day our 5th graders. I was able to visit a few of our schools this morning as parents are dropping them off, and I'm happy to report nothing but smiles all over. The families are excited for their children to come to school. The kids had a little hop in their step as they're running down. And then there's the level of confidence that I saw in our 5th graders that was very encouraging and very fun to watch and see as they were headed right back into class. Knowing many of their peers that they've seen and worked with in the virtual side, knowing that their teacher that they've been working with on the virtual side will be there face to face. So today is a simple example of our 5th graders coming back was a great success. And I think we're excited to continue to see them throughout the rest of the school year. And everything has gone very well from all of our reports from our schools as well as from our community.
I can share, add on a little bit. I echo everything that Eric Hoagland shared. In the secondary world, I'm Matt Lambert. I'm the Executive Director for our secondary school, so 6th through 12th graders. And our 6th grade is our first foray into our secondary, where we actually have students that are transitioning from one class to another class to another class during their day. And so our school administrators have worked tirelessly to cohort our students and make sure that We are limiting the amount of students that they're interacting with during the day, so they still get that student interaction within their cohorts, but we're not overly exposing our students beyond those cohorts as much as possible. We've had a very successful opening to our 6th grade. We've been on an A-B schedule for the first 4 days as we have transitioned these students into schools. And today is the first day that we have all of our 6th grade class back full time. And I'm eager to hear from my principals how everything went, having all of their kids there. I would only add that there is a synergy around school. I know that Eric Hoagland has been hearing this from his group in the elementary realm all the way through this opening. This is my first opportunity to hear this firsthand from our teachers and from our principals about just that excitement and that energy that kids bring coming into our buildings.
Thank you, Eric and Matt. And I felt your energy too. And I was going to say, Eric, as a proud Coug, I like your background there. Looks good. Go Cougs. So we're going to go to our next, our final question for this afternoon. And so Superintendent Small, we've got wonderful families and parents on the call. We've got community and business leaders, our elected leaders. Just talk to us about how can the community best support the school district at this time?
I think the thing that I would say is if you have time, actively volunteer at one of our schools. Call the principal and say, I'm willing to spend a consistent amount of time at one of our schools and engage, help with supervising our kids as they come in to schools. We certainly aren't having as many volunteers in school classrooms because of our socially distancing requirements. But as kids are coming to school, if you would like to be a crossing guard, you have some time, an hour in the morning before you're off to work, that you would help cross 6th grade students at a middle school or our elementary students. We would love to see that. I think one of the things that I think is so vitally important right now is that we as a community continue to move forward with a positive attitude, and that we give grace to those around us, that we connect with our neighbors, that we act in kindness. I know one of the things that GSI has put forward is this notion of spread kindness, not COVID. And I think that we all have a responsibility to act with kindness as we move forward. We are going to emerge from this pandemic. We can choose to emerge from this pandemic stronger and a more healthy community. And we can make sure that that happens as a community that is integrated into, or schools that are integrated into our community. We can make that happen by choosing this notion of kindness and grace. We can also help our students understand that this is temporary too, that as we move out of this, there will be a brighter future, a bright future for them as well. Reach out to a neighbor, reach out to somebody who may not be able to go grocery shopping, help them out. And I think look to your principal for areas where you might give a helping hand to our students. You can still mentor a student virtually and connect with our kids at the level that you feel comfortable with. Thank you very much, Alicia, for that question. I think is vitally important.
You're welcome. Well, and I want to once again say thanks to everybody that's joined us this afternoon for this conversation, for your questions. A thank you to Superintendent Small and the team at Central Valley School District for their leadership. And want to wish each of you a great rest of the afternoon. And I think I would end with saying some of Ben's comments at the very beginning, that we need to remember that communities are known by the schools they keep. And so with that, I want to make sure I remind everybody to make sure you vote by February 9th. And with that, have a wonderful afternoon. And thank you again for being with us today.